afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon, Nilesh sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, madam.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all the students of Faculty of Management Studies, Parul University. Welcome to all for this webinar series. Today we are having webinar by our expert, Nilesh Dave. I would like to give a brief introduction about Nilesh Dave. And today's coordinator for this program, Dr. Sapna Chauhan. Sir, I would like to give brief introduction as sir is having a vast experience in HR field, and sir has worked with various industry as a most prominent position. So manager in HR Group, deputy general manager in Reliance Group, general manager in Aditya Birla Group, assistant vice president in Lalji Bhai Group, vice president in Adani Group, senior vice president in Welspun Group, and chief people officer in Matix Group. So, looking to this prominent position and vast experience, I think that would be a very great learning opportunity for the students of MBA for second semester, that they can learn so many dimensions. Sir is having expertise in area of balance scorecard, compensation and grade restructuring, competency metrics, employee engagement activities, and various OD intervention and change management. So today's webinar that would be very much helpful for all the HR students. Apart from that, those who are making a long-term journey as a managerial position, how to deal with this various dimension, 360-degree approaches required in MBA program. So just I would like to hand over this mic to Nilesh Dave sir. And thank you so much, Sapna madam, for this coordination along with me. At the end of the session, if any question, you can share with Sapna madam, and that queries will be resolved by Nilesh sir. Thank you, sir. You can start your session. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. At the outset, I must thank Vijal madam and Sapna madam for providing me this opportunity to interact with the young students, or if I put it in other way, they are the young managers of human resource management field, and I think they will be the future leader, I would say, future leader in HR area. So it will be a great pleasure. And we will be talking on sustainability part. Of course, the concept is absolutely emerging, I would say. It is emerging, because in olden days, when we started in the field of HR, I think that was the starting area of industrial relations. And then HR has evolved to a great extent. From IR, it has gone to the personal management, then it has gone to the human resource management. Of course, it was an operational part. Then it has turned into the strategic human resource management. And now today, of course, the wonderful term or the terminology you can say is the sustainable HRM practices. I think it's a great evolution in the field of human resource management. And I think we are all delighted to see that such concept is evolving, and the young managers will be learning to a great extent what are the kind of evolution taking place. So it's my pleasure joining all of you, all youngsters, and I sincerely hope that we all will be benefited. First, let me also put it, I think it was a great challenge given to me by both your madam, because any session starting after lunch is a most challenging session, because to keep the students awaken, or the audience awaken, is a tough task. Because I remember my old days of in my training, when we used to attend any training program, any session after the lunch was a really tough time. But anyway, I think the challenge was posed to me, and I think that I should be able to satisfy the both the members, the faculty, in terms of justifying my role. So friends, I hope I am quite audible.
Sir, you are audible very much.
Absolutely right. Now, how do I use my presentation, or you will be doing presentation, Sapna ma'am?
Sir, is it possible from your end, or I'll do it? Just give me a moment. I'm switching on
No,
the
no,
device.
I do it from my side. There is a
Okay, fine.
hmm?
Fine, sir.
Okay,
Sure.
great. So I think my this sustainable HRM has a three dimension. One is the strategic part of HR, then HR pros practices, subsystem, what you call it, practices, and the organizational sustainability. I think these three things combined together has made the sustainable HRM, which we will be talking today. So my presentation will have some of the theoretical aspect. I would rather like to take much the practical aspect, what we have practiced in the industry, because theory, you people are more, I would say, smart or more expert in learning the theories. But whatever I can add value is in terms of the practical aspect. So I think that I'll try and give you more this thing, the idea about how the industries are practicing these HRM practices and how it is making it more sustainable. Broadly, the presentation will cover the sustainability part, understanding what is the sustainability. Then what triggers a worldwide sustainability HRM, because this term is now much more known and much more prominent in terms of the sustainability part. Then what is the importance of sustainable HRM? Why it is important in terms of the business world or in terms of the various environmental situation which we will be encounter. Then what are the ways to develop the sustainable HRM? I think that also we will be talking about that, how it will help. Then how sustainable HRM works. So it's a roadmap. I'll try and give some of these brief on. Then sustainable HRM scorecard. What are the areas in HRM where there is a scorecard is there? And finally, what is the role and challenges what you youngsters will be feeling, or you will be finding it? I think that will be more interesting for the youngsters like you. So I think that these are these few areas which we will try to cover in whatever is the short time available with us. Of course, this is a very big topic, but then we'll have to understand, or we'll have to try and pick up whatever the best we can do it. So what is the sustainability part? I think the sustainability in a common man's language, if I put it up, that it is what we do today, that we should do it better tomorrow and much better day after tomorrow. Of course, this is absolutely layman language. Whatever the things which we are doing it, if we do it better today, and if we do it much better tomorrow and thereafter much better, so that will be a sustainability part. It should not happen that any industry or anything which we start it today, and then maybe in a year's time, in a 2 years time, in a 5 years time, if we are not in a position to maintain it, when the things collapse, then probably it is not as sustainable. So I think that sustainability has got much more future requirement than even the today's requirement. So if I talk in the little management terminology, it is like we meet the needs of and demands of people today, and that without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their requirement. So again, as I was talking to you, it is the future requirement. Today, whatever we do, we should be able to do it much better tomorrow, and we should be able to do it much better day after tomorrow. So that is the broad terminology on sustainability part. Or in other words, I think we need to balance also. We may do it in one particular segment, but we don't do it in other segment. There is no balance, and that imbalance will not allow us to make it more sustainability part. So we have to balance the economic aspect, the social aspect, and the environment factor in and outside the organization. It is broadly, I am saying that in organization, these are the three things which is also very important, and outside the organization also, these three things are very important. So I think these are the broadly what we can say, the sustainability part, if we understand in the little management terminology. What is sustainable organization? I think the sustainable organization, if we talk about, it is the business which is making the organization sustainable. In what sense or in what terminology? I think there are three important things. It is the profit which we generate. It is the people. Again, if we look at the other earlier definition, it is people means it is a social part. Because when a group of people meet in the organization, I think we create a kind of a small society in the organization. And a planet. Again, a planet means it is an environment part which we are talking about. So these three P's covers the organization or the business is more sustainable. Now, if I give you an example, you look at the kind of an organization in India or maybe outside. Look at the Tata Group, which is a consistently, sustainably, they are doing the business in a most profitable manner. People are happy. If you see the, or if you conduct the satisfaction survey, you will find much more people who are happy with the group, or say Tata as the brand, or the environmental. They are taking much more care in terms of the environment part, in terms of the society, in terms of the social aspect. So look at Tata Group, look at the Birlas. You know, they are continuously sustainable. It was started by G.D. Birla, it was then taken over by the Aditya Birla, and now taken over by the Kumar Birla. So I think the generations, future, I think it was started as a business, and the future also is one of the best which is happening in the country. What it was a 1,000 crore company, today it is maybe a 1,50,000 crore group, you can say, as the Aditya Birla Group you talk about. So these are definitely sustainable. Take the example of JK Group. Take the example of the General Electric. Even outside India, if you look at it, Jack Welch, who was the CEO of the company, and he has created the value in terms of the business sustainability. GE today is one of the best brand in the world. So I think that these are the kind of business or the organizations which are sustainable. You can say, or you can define them as they are the sustainable. Because why? Because they are creating profit. They are creating value for the stakeholder, value for the shareholder. So it is the profit which is very important. It is the people whom they take care, and it is the planet whom really they take care. If I remind you, if one of the advertisement of Tata, when they were doing a business, so there was an advertisement which was coming up like that: we are creating an atmosphere of happiness, we are creating the environment very happy, and we are also doing various activities. And in last, the advertisement used to say, "Hum steel bhi banate hain." So what it indicates that they are giving more importance to that stakeholder first, and then they talk about, yes, we are making steel. So that is the kind of organizations which will always be sustainable, which will always create value for the stakeholder. Now, if we come back to the sustainable part on HRM, as I told you, that HRM has evolved over a period of time. So what was the HRM which creates the define, or if I give you the definition, it is the HRM that creates a workforce that has the trust, they have got the values, they have got the skills and motivation to achieve a profitable triple bottom line. What triple bottom line? We earlier talked about the earlier this slide. So what it wants to say, the HRM, if it has to be sustainable, it has to have the trust, it has to have the values. I have seen many organizations like Aditya Birla. Let me give you an example. We used to conduct the interview, and in interview there were some questionnaires which always used to focus on values of an employee. So what was the philosophy of the company? That if the values are, if employee has a good values, if person has a good values, you can teach him. Skill can always be acquired, but the values cannot be acquired. Values, what we nurture over a period of our from a childhood to adulthood, that is the values which we nurture from our families or from our society. So I think that this is what the areas where we need to really focus on. So what the HRM creates, how HRM can be sustainable if it has the trust, if the employees has got a good values, if the skills are there, and if people are motivated. And I'm sure the profitability will definitely come, or we will be able to ensure that yes, we are profitable organization. So I think that these are what is the sustainable HRM. You know, if I talk about this, when I told you about the evolution part, evolution of HR, this HR was evolved in India. If I give you a little brief, this was the industrialization, then it has gone to the personal management, and then in 80s we have evolved the human resources. Now, how it was evolved? One of the best, the academician was there, Dr. T.V. Rao, who was the professor in XLRI, who was the professor in IIM Ahmedabad. He was the person, along with one of the professor of IIM Ahmedabad, they have started human resource department in Larsen and Toubro. So in India, if we talk about, the HR has evolved in the company called Larsen and Toubro, and that was the beginning. And from there, a lot of other companies have started taking the human resource area, or the from the operational human resource to the strategic human resource, and now we are talking about the sustainable human resources. So these are the some of the things which we really understand, that how HRM has evolved, how human resource management has evolved, and how it is now helping best to the business. Earlier HR was seen as a भाई recruitment करना है आपको और आपको payroll बनाना है. That was the HR. So from there, today even each business head is banking on HR. Why? Because we have created that kind of sustainability. Some of the experts who are in the field of HR, they have created sustainability by enforcing in the workforce the kind of a trust, the kind of values, adding up the skills, competencies through various developmental tools, and likewise. And that is how today the HR has been evolved. So I think that this is the kind of HR today we are talking about, and what all you need, you will be getting a little mileage, you will be getting a little advantage of human resource professional is only some of those, the old timers, the experts have created that kind of value to the human resource area, and that is what today it is gaining a much more the advantage. Now, what triggers the worldwide sustainable HRM? Why sustainable HRM is required? So I have tried to put up some of the things why we need to be sustainable HRM. LAB chalta tha, business was earlier also doing, and business is doing now also. So the reason being that the HRM was sustainable earlier also, and HRM is sustainable now also. So some of the things which I would like to give you the area why it was sustainable. The first and foremost is the globalization and technological development. So today HR has to play a very wide role, because the business is now global. Business is not Indian. Business is not the geographic specific. Business is now developed globally. So and we are trying to get the talent even all across the country. So globalization and is very important, and that has helped HR to be more sustainable. The technological part also, because there are a lot of technology which has developed, and that is where the reason is that why the sustainability is required. The another thing is the managing more complex and global workforce. When you get the people, when you hire the people, they are from the different background, they are from the different geography, they are from the different culture, and that assimilation of those culture is very, very important. And for that you need a little expertise, you need a practice, sustainable practice in HR, which can make this global workforce to work in a very productive manner in your organization. So I think that is another reason why the sustainability is required. Then pressure to remain competitive and flexible. today there is a lot of competition is there, and lot of the businesses are not doing well only because they are not in a position to match the competition. So when we are in terms of the competitive, then we need to have the proper processes, various HR processes which make people more competitive and make people more flexible, because flexibility also is very much important. I have seen many organizations who stick to the their own stubborn practices have already gone into the negativity, have already closed down kind of things. So I think that what we need is a more competitive environment is there, flexibility is there. So we need to have a better sustainable HR part. The another part is the regulatory pressures. So I think today, if you see, because of technology, lot of regulations are is known kind of, it is very, transparency is there. You can't now hide anything. Earlier, people used to hide a lot of things in terms of the compliance part, in terms of the legality part. But today, the regulatory pressures are so much there because of technology. They know it, that whether you paid the provident fund, whether you paid the in terms of industry we talk about, you paid the GST, you paid the ESI. So all such compliance part, or how many people are there in your organization, everything is more on a because of technology, things are very easily available to the machineries, also the government machinery. So there are a lot of regulatory pressure. So your processes should be such that yes, you are in a position to maintain those regulatory pressures in a right manner. The another part is the corporate social responsibility. I think that is also one of the very important things where corporate social responsibility is the, because if you probably might be learning also that in industry today, the certain portion of their profitability has to be spent for the development of the society. So that is called corporate social responsibility. Each entrepreneur, each business has to manage that. So that is the kind of corporate social responsibility is another area where you need to be now more focus on. And another is the environmental concern. So environment also is now the responsibility of so many organizations or businesses. So there also you need to take care. So that is how you all need to be more sustainable in terms of the HR. And work-life conflict. I think there are lot of these days, lot of awareness is there in terms of the work-life balance. So a lot of companies are talking about work-life balance. Earlier, this situation was totally different. Companies were a little stubborn, that they were not bothered about whether your work-life balance is there or not. Today, the companies are taking such HR processes by which you can be together with your family, you can be together with your children, and that kind of the policies, practices have been made so that you can be more with your family, and your work-life balance is always maintained. So this is the kind of trigger which is there, which compel the policymakers to be more sustainable in terms of the HR part. Now, the importance of sustainable part, why it is required. So importance is what? So it is helping company to bring down the cost. I'll show you some of the processes which really helps the organization to bring down their cost, and without losing the talent, because talent, when you are lose, I think it is very, very important. Attrition rate in various companies. Now a lot of companies are focusing on reduction of attrition rate. Earlier nobody was bothered, nahi aata hai, jata hai, to jane do. But today, the talent is very important, and that is how they are talking about that. Yes, how we can, retain our talent, and how attrition rate. Even in many of my companies, like in Adani or in various companies, we used to give a presentation, and the CEO was interested that in a month, what are your attrition and how the attrition has gone up, or how attrition has been reduced. So they were keen to know, because today we are now focusing more on the human resource part. So that is where is one this thing. It helps achieving higher employee job satisfaction is more, commitment is more. Then culture of having the concern for well-being. Now a lot of companies spend on health. Earlier that was not the kind of culture, but now a lot of companies are spending on their health, mediclaim, then a lot of other measures are being taken for the employees. So that is also one of the very important aspects. Then improve brand image. It really improves the brand image. Today, even I heard CEO talking that yes, we have excellent HR department, or we are having these HR practices, we are having these HR practices. So now it is brand image also improves with your sustainable HR part is there. So that is also one of the important feature. Then reduction in environment impact, as we already discussed about. Improved competitiveness and increase overall performance. So as earlier we discussed about how it helps in competitiveness, because competition is more, and we need to be excellent in our performance in whatever we make the production or whatever the item we produce. I think we need to have a competitive edge. We need to have the quality of product so that it always helps us. Then it reduces the utility cost. Encouraging employees through training and compensation. So one of the area is how we develop our people and how we give them a better compensation. So these are all some of the importance of sustainable HRM practices are there. Then how can we make it better? So there are 4 or 5 areas where it can be still better. HRM or the sustainability part could be better. I think the most important is focus on customer. I think a lot of companies, even you talk about the McDonald's or kind of company who are focusing on customer, your employees compensation or employees performance is evaluated based on the customer's feedback. So I think that is the kind of focus if you give to the customer, I think then we can still make the sustainability part in a better way. Then striving balanced approach between the stakeholders. So I think balancing part is very important amongst all the stakeholders. As I told you, one segment is being taken care and other segment is not being taken care. That is not the right way. So I think we need to have a balanced approach for all the stakeholders. The HRM process to ensure that employees are willing and able to perform sustainably. So again, the performance part. So it has to be how sustainable the employee performance is, because today, if some employees is doing better, and tomorrow, if the performance is got down, ultimately it affects the organization, it affects the production, productivity, and even the business. So I think that the performance also sustainable employee has to maintain is very, very important. Then leadership also on sustainable basis, because leadership if keeps changing, I think it is badly affecting the organization. If you change your leader, or leader is getting changed at various levels. I'm not talking about leader means only the CEO of an organization or only the organizational top leadership. It is the functional leadership, it is the departmental head leadership. All leadership needs to be on a sustainable basis, and we should develop such leaders. There are many HR practices which is developing succession plan for the organization. So what is that succession plan? That you keep identifying the top functional leaders or the departmental leaders and keep developing or create a succession plan so that the second level, third level, fourth level keep on developing as a leader. So I think that leadership also needs to be developed on a sustainable basis. And the last one was to focus on long-term strategy of the organization on a sustainable basis. Today, if we talk about if some organization work on a short-term basis, okay, यार ये policy अभी बना दो, फिर देखा जाएगा 1 साल बाद में. If that is the kind of an organization, I think it will never work, because all policy needs to be long-term. So once there is a long-term strategy is there, then only the sustainability part will come. Otherwise, the organization cannot be sustainable. Now, some of these example of sustainable HR practices, because I think when we are talking about in terms of this topic, I think it is the sustainable HRM practices. So I have tried to spell out some of those practices which I have seen in many of the top organizations, good organizations are following it up. If we start with, I think there is a selection, recruitment and selection. If we talk about the hiring of a good talent, I think then we need to have a proper, proper employee, a proper person who can come in the organization. So I have seen many organizations have a practice of psychometric test. So Important of them is a FIROBI. FIROBI is probably you will study or you might have studied also. It is the fundamental interpersonal relationship behavioral part. So I think that when you are working in an organization, whether the person is more interpersonal relationship is kaisa hai uska, how he will be able to get along with the people, because ultimately it is a team in the organization which always give a good result, which always brings a proper achievement in the organization. So I think that FIROBI is one such factor. 16 personality factor, which is another area where 16 areas have been identified, and then there is a small test there, and when we are conducting those tests amongst the newcomer, and then we find that yes, where the person, whether he's a balance, whether he's a poor in many areas, whether he's a rather even more better in the other areas. So that kind of test also will help us. Then Thomas profiling. We used to follow this practice of Thomas profiling in our Adani's or in many other companies like even SR also used to follow this Thomas profiling. These four-dimensional profile is there, where the dominance is there, influence is there, steadiness is there, and compliance is there. So this test gives us that what level you are taking the person, in what area you are taking the person, and it has got the low value, it has got the high value. Now, if you are taking the person in, say, internal audit department, and if the person's compliance is at the lower level, probably he is not a best fit for the organization. So I think that the compliance part, because the internal auditor's main role is a compliance. So compliance, if he's a strong, rather if he's a his overall personality is strong in compliance part, probably he is best fit for the internal audit department. So such the test will always help the organization to have the right fit in the company. And once wrong fit comes, I think it pays its own price. So all organizations are now following this kind of good organization. I'm talking about those HR oriented organizations follow this kind of practices. We talk about the performance management system. Now, this is one of the very, very important, and I would always rate this performance management system. I don't know, you will study also in your curriculum, or you might have studied this in our HR terminology, or the HR professionals always treat this tool as a heart of the entire HR system, because this will give a lot of value to the business. Because if you talk about the earlier, people used to evaluate the performance and then increment dena hai to evaluate karke de do. That is the kind of approach which was there. But now that has been changed. So from there we have come down to the KRA based PMS. KRA based means key result areas are being identified in the beginning of the year. Then every quarterly or maybe 6 monthly, depending upon the organization's needs, they are being evaluated their performance. Then whatever is the improvement is required, the training programs are being devised based on that. Feedback sessions are being conducted for that employee. So this entire process gives a complete, the support to the business. So even see, I was talking about the general relative. The Jack Welch was always of the opinion that when you evaluate the performance, bottom 2%, 3% must be rated as a poor. So of course, it's a lot of people criticize also. But what was the objective? Objective was that in an organization, over a period of time, you always create a fat. Like in human body, we create a fat, and that fat needs to be reduced. So when in organization, the bottom 3% or 2% or depends, needs to be identified as a poor performer. They must be given an opportunity to improve. If they don't improve, then probably they have to leave the organization. So that kind of the stricter norms on the performance part will always help the organization or help the business to create or the value for the shareholders. And that is one of the best HR practice also. 360 based PMS. If you might have read, or I was referring to the name of Dr. T.V. Rao, he was the inventor of 360-degree feedback, where the objective is not only to give the compensation or increment. The objective is to make a real development of an individual. 360-degree means all line managers, all the the superior officers evaluate the performance of a person depending upon the size of the organization, and accordingly he has been identified about the weak areas or strong areas, and accordingly the developmental the assessment is being done. The balanced scorecard approach, probably you might not have heard, but this also is today one of the best HR practices, and a few of the top organizations are following this balanced scorecard based PMS system. This itself is a big subject. There are a lot of books have been written on balanced scorecard. So I don't want to take more time on this area because we have a very short time. The learning and development, where the various tools are there now today, we are identifying high potentials and then developing them. Assessment centers have been created by many organizations, and then they are identifying those people whose competencies are required to be developed. So those are the kind of learning and development. Then organization culture also is being always assessed over a period of 2 years, 3 years. In Adani, we used to conduct the employee satisfaction survey or employee engagement survey, and even employee style survey, whether the organization is a participative style of organization, whether it is autocratic style of organization, whether it is the benevolent autocratic style of organization. So those are and what people perceive. So based on the strong, the questionnaire or the kind of survey, we used to find that yes, and those presentations we used to make in front of the chairman Gautam Adani, and he was shocked when his people say that your organization has got only the top driven organization, or there are no participation. So such thing always helps the organization. Even then he himself has started saying that okay, now it should not be one man organization. Create the team of top management or second level of top management who will then take the decision in the organization. So from the top driven, rather we are making it more the bottom driven or the medium employees driven organization. So these are the kind of the HR practices which really helps and it is so sustainable that it can help business to continuously flow and develop also. I will not much talk about the roadmap because ultimately it is the there is I think the slide is there. You can always see what we have discussed is only the part of an HR part because the time is not very much permitting on these kind of things. Then we have made a small scorecard. I think that scorecard, again, as I discussed with you, but these are the HRM scorecard is there where the sustainable organizations always take care. So first is values and ethics. So the employees must understand. You see, in one of our organization, like was in Birla, we used to give a complete training on what are the values and what are the ethics, because the Aditya Birla was much more ethical company, and the business cannot be done hook by hook or crook. आपको profit लाना है तो 100 crore profit चाहिए मुझे. The chairman used to say, but 100 crore profit मुझे किसी भी तरह से चाहिए. That was not the kind of an organization. So ethics was given much importance. So they say no, we want profit, but we want by following various processes, by following various practices, and you cannot overcome or you cannot overlook those processes or practices. So that is the kind of the role which the sustainable part is always taking care. So recruitment, in recruitment also it's based on the diverse principle. Diversity, we talked about that people come from different areas, geographical, gender biases are also there. So now that kind of gender biases should not be there. So those are the kind of the scorecard where the all areas or all practices are being measured that yes, this needs to be taken care. Compensation. So compensation, you just can't say कि भाई इसको ऐसा दे दिया compensation हमारी company में ये है नहीं. We used to conduct a study across various organizations and ensure that what are the kind of compensation practices are prevailing, where we stand by. So that is the kind of the importance was given to some such area of compensation. Then employee well-being, as we talked about, that the health is more being taken care, or the employees uska fitness is there. Many top organizations are having their own the health club kind of things in the organization. So that is the kind of focused today is being given to such areas also. Development, as we talked about, a lot of companies process are there which can always think of developing the people. So that is what is one such area, and the objective and even the metrics are also there in our organizations. We always used to have proper metrics that how the development is taking place. And then engagement part. So this is of late, this particular process of employee engagement has assumed very important aspect in the HR area, because the engagement, it has been well established that if people are not engaged with the organization, with the company, with the business, with the people also in the organization, I think the productivity is reduced to that extent. So employee productivity is less if the engagement of people are less, and if the engagement of people are more towards the organization, the productivity, the profitability always is better in terms of those areas. So that is the scorecard which I was talking about. The last slide, what I will be talking about is roles and challenges with youngsters, or what you people are more interested in the terms of HR area or human resource management area. So what is today's requirement? I think there needs to be a deep understanding of its business goals and objectives of the organization. See, I have seen many HR professionals are not at all taking the business as their core competence required, because they are not understanding the business, and whatever the policy they make it in isolation. So if the business ka requirement kuch hai, aapka policy HR kuch hai, so there is no the synergy, and if there is no synergy, either the business will suffer or your HR will suffer. So I think that today, as a youngsters, you need to develop the complete understanding of business. Understanding of business does not mean that how your what you are manufacturing and what you are selling. I think what you need to know, that how the entire manufacturing process is there. As an HR person, you should know even some of the, not a technical part, but at least the how the entire product is being manufactured, the whole process one should know. Then once the product is made, then I think how the marketing takes place, what are the kind of the margins are there, what are the kind of the distribution system is there. So all such things, understanding of business is very much required. And as a youngster, it is very important that you must know how the business is taking place, because if you don't understand business, you cannot make the good HR practices, or your sustainability part. So forget about your sustainable HR, but you will not be able to frame even a normal HR policies also. So I think that understanding of business, which is very important. Then formulate sustainable HR policies. Some of the people are just policy banana hai, so I think let us make the policy and then go ahead about. So I think that is not the way we should make a policy, because this Matix, when I was working, it was a new organization, and we wanted to make a HR policy. So my CEO gave me a target of within 1 month you make HR policy. I said, sorry sir, we can't make HR policy within 1 month's time. For making a policy, you need to understand what is prevailing in the very good companies across the place. So I think then we prepared a questionnaire, put all those factors that we wanted to put in our HR policy. Then we have studied the other organization, at least 5 to 6 organizations. We have studied what kind of HR policies they have. And then based on that, we have prepared our own, the HR policy. It's a impact, because ultimately, once you make a policy also, you need to know the financial impact also of those policies. So then we analyze those financial aspect of the policies, and then the policy was framed and it was put up for the management's approval. So I think that kind of, and then how long this will run. It should not happen that, sir, ek saal abhi, every next year they can get. No, I think you can't work on that kind of approach. So that is what is very important once you frame the policy. Then channelize the energy. I think you need to channelize whatever you make. I think energy has to be channelized when you make any policy or any process, any system. Then partners with business leader. I think this is very, very important. I think you need to be, or your competence level of HR understanding should be such that at least your CEO, your other functional manager always respect you, and you need to work in partnering with those people, because in isolation, as I told you, you can't make HR policy. So, you need to have the complete partnering, or when you make a, supposing sales ka to travel policy banate hai, you need to have a thorough and detailed discussion with your the marketing head, that yes, what is the kind of travel they will be undertaking, what kind of the zone areas are there, regions are there, where what kind of the problems they will face, what kind of, otherwise आप कुछ बना देंगे and then they will keep on creeping all the time कि साहब हम तो उधर जाएंगे नहीं, because ultimately it affect the business, because if your allowances will not matching to the current the expenditure, then probably people will either give some statement which is more than your policy, and you have to keep on breaking the policy, or they themselves will say, oh, if you are strict, then they say, okay, we will not go for this particular visit, or we will not visit in the market. So ultimately it will affect your business. So whatever you make a policy, you need to partner with the your stakeholders. Stakeholder in the organization is whatever is your functional heads or departmental heads. I was reading one of the book that is written by Mr. Ram Sharan. He is one of the best thinker in today's time, and he has written one book on talent management, and he specifically talked that in today's business there are three persons who are very key to the business. One is the CEO himself, another is the finance head, and third is the HR. Why HR? Because he knows the people. He knows the pulse of the people. He knows the potential of the people. So these three are the people who can be a core team members in any organization or for any business, who can add a lot of value to them. So that is the kind of partnering. If you do it as a HR leader, then only probably you will be more successful as a young HR professional. Then support and communication. I think you need to continuously talk to the employees. I was in Welspun, and I think there were some processes which has been written. We were having the every monthly open house meeting kind of things, was there. So there, all the corporate office staff will be meeting at one place, and that meeting used to run for 2 to 3 hours. And then, whosoever has got a problem or any grievance, he can spell out in the meeting. So, that open house meeting was there even for that kind of companies, and that sustainable such practices will always help the organization. Even in Tata's, the Rusi Modi was earlier, I think some 50 years back, he was the CEO of Jamshedpur complex, and he used to conduct the open house meeting for the workers. That time the workers' strength was around 5,000, and still he was interacting with them. He was saying what are the company's policy which are going to come in another few months or another year or so. And then he used to invite what are their problems, what are their suggestions, kind of thing. So I think you need to maintain continuous dialogue with the employees. And that is what is very important, even from the sustainable point of view, from the organization's culture point of view, from the business point of view. These are all very, very important things. So I think with these few things which I could try and spell out, probably I hope the youngsters of today's session may get a little advantage. So finally, in a nutshell, I would only say that this HR skill in organization process, change management and culture stewardship can create, implement sustainable business strategy throughout the organization. So this is the nutshell what the sustainable HRM practices can help business grow in the organization, is what my thought process is. Now, with these few words, I would like to conclude my sessions, and would request that if you have any questions, you can always spell out, or you can always throw on me, and if possible, I will be able to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Is any of the students have any question for the today's guest related to the topic? So I've been listening to your very inspiring lecture on the sustainable HRM practices. So one thought which was lingering in my mind was about, like, though it's the need of the hour and the paradigm shift had happened. I hope I'm audible clearly.
Yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah. So how difficult it is for the organizations to bring all these things into practice? Because on papers we have been discussing a lot of things, and there have been a lot of ideal situations wherein we can have a sustainable environment and have a lot of HRM sustainable practices also. So having heard in so many organizations, what your take on this is? Are the organizations very welcoming on having these kind of practices in the organizations? On what are the challenges actually?
You know, I think I would respond to your questions in two parts. One is whether organizations are ready or implementing such practices, and second is what are the challenges, right? Is it okay? Hello?
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Yeah. So, you know, let me put it in the perspective that those who are the organization which are proactive, which wants to grow, which has that you know, the ability and willingness to grow, I think they adopt such practices, and they are even willing to accept whatever the right or wrong thing comes. So just to give you an example, like as I told you in Adani, when we have conducted this organization, this survey, that employee engagement survey, the result has, as I told you, came out that there is a top-down organization and only one man's voice prevails. This was a very specific statement which has come. You know, so this has been now presented to the chairman, Gautam Adani himself. Now you can understand. So when when we told that, okay, we will not, because there are some not a positive things which has come in this survey, so we will not spell out, sir. That was the kind of presentation from our HR team. We were 4 or 5 key persons heading the HR. So he says, no, I am interested to know what people have written wrong about the organization, and that is where I am interested. The survey where we have conducted, it was first and foremost thing was nobody's name will come and things like that. So it was purely the survey which was unnamed kind of. But he was interested to know, yes, what are those wrong or the negative points. So when we spelled out those negative points, he literally jotted down, and on 3-4 areas, he even called some of his key people, and he says that these are the perception of people. You know, again, it is a perception. Whatever right or wrong is a different issue. So it is the perception of people. So there, you know, and then the improvement has started taking place. So I need not to say what today the Adani Group is. Of course, there are various other factors. Now, coming back to the challenges, I think the first and foremost challenge is the HR knowledge. The kind of you know, today the problem is that, you know, even people are head of HR or likewise, but the kind of knowledge which is required, you know, the kind of you know, the HR competence which they should have, the people have no you know, the faith on HR's top people also. यार ये तो सब ऐसे ही बड़े-बड़े बात करते हैं. So you have to first put your personality and acceptance in front of the top. So that is first part. Second part is you should have an ability to communicate right things. then because that, if you don't have that, okay, I'll be able to tell the owner, or maybe these what I have worked is all in owner-driven organization. So when we make any policy, then we need to have that conviction to stick to those policies. In Birla's, we have decided that yes, we will take only the graduate engineers first class in the management cadre. Now, a lot of pressure used to come in terms of the politicians, ministry, and all that. But we used to say, no, I think this is what our policy, and we will not give appointment. So when people initially, a lot of hesitations came, a lot of criticism came, a lot of problems have come, but we stuck to that. And over a period of time, they became our spokesperson. Anyone used to come to those politicians, they say, बिरला में जाना है, आपका फर्स्ट क्लास है क्या ग्रेजुएशन में? बोला नहीं, तो देन आपको जॉब नहीं मिलेगा. So that is the kind of thing. So one is that you need to have the clear understanding of HR, your acceptance, your conviction, and your guts to say yes, what is right and what is wrong. And you should be able to very nicely, politely. If you keep hearing about owner ko bolenge to, my president HR in Adani was very clear. He says, Gautam bhai, but main aapko bataunga. So that kind of the guts or that kind of ability if you have, then probably things will change. Otherwise, as you rightly say, things will keep on moving around, and there is a way of doing it also. I don't say that if you even there is a criticism also, you convey it in a very straight language. Yes, you have to also thoda dilute karke diplomatically you have to communicate, because ultimately owner is owner, uska bhi ego hai, owner's ego always operates also. So I think there you need to take care of his ego also and put your point in a right perspective.
Thank you, sir. And just one more question, I think that can be benefit to our students also who are listening to you. Just in a few months' time, they'll be out and looking for the job in the market. So can this be one criteria for looking to an organization, which one to go for? Like the organization which are having lots of sustainable practices, be it any domain, not only HRM, but marketing also or finance also. So everywhere sustainability counts. So do they need to think about choosing an organization on sustainability front also?
Yeah, I would not, yes, the sustainability part is all in a proactive, enlightened organizations are following these practices. Now, it may not be possible that everyone will get that kind of an organization. But yes, as you may, initial stage, sometime, I'm using a little bad word, beggars have no choice. So I think that you may have to take up some, company or a small company. Like, I started, it was not the SR right from the beginning. For some few years, I have also worked in a, very small company, very unknown kind of a company. But I think that you need to strive continuously high that yes, I want to work in this kind of top company. I want to work in such an enlightened company, in such a HR-oriented company. And at the same time, you have to keep on updating your knowledge. The problem is that, the students are not very much updating the knowledge, or rather young managers. Because ek baar acha job bhi mil gaya, to still you have to keep on updating. Because, I was reading some doctorate and the very successful person also, and he was mentioning even at the retirement age also I am learning something. So man has to be learning person all through his life. So I think if he keeps on having that kind of approach, probably one day a good company will come to his basket, and then ultimately then you are not to see. But the process is continuous. Again, it is a sustainable path. You have to be sustainably, keep on striving high for the good companies.
Correct, sir. Very correctly answered. Thank you so much, sir. I think I have got a little bit more questions, but the time is not permitting me to ask more questions. However, if students feel like having a direct question, sir, can I share your email ID with these students?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
If at all they want to get in touch with you. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir, can we wrap up this session with your permission, sir?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
And so, before wrapping up, I just want to extend big thanks to you for taking your time out and having a lot of sharing of information on sustainable HRM practices with our MBA second semester students on behalf of my department, Faculty of Management Studies, and Parul University, especially. So I would like to extend a big thank you to you for being here with us for 1 hour and sharing a lot of information, that too interesting and practically applicable information with all of us. Thank you so much, again. We wish to have a lot of sessions with you again, sir, in future.
Yeah, sure. I would definitely like to, because it is not only the any other areas, but these are all HR is my own fraternity, and I wish
Yes,
that
sir.
these all youngsters should really grow. And I think that even a little suggestion that in your curriculum, whoever is on the HR part, or maybe in any of the stream also, I think try and get a few of those very important or like sustainable HR practices, and I think you need to feed them in a best possible manner, so that
Right, sir.
they will be more, because a generic part, so everybody will understand. Even the other
Right.
diplomas also will teach them about some small recruitment here and there is okay, but some of those the core HR or strategic HR which is there, and you need to more focus on that part, and even give that kind of the studies to these children also, so that will give them
Right.
expertise hoga. Because in good companies always they talk about good interviews in all such enlightened practices, so they will talk about aapne kya
Right.
padha, performance management, what kind of balance scorecard kya hai, ye kya hai, wo kya hai. So all those things will be much more asked to the students.
Right, sir. Yes. Thank you. We'll keep that in mind, sir. I am also a faculty for HR specialization, so definitely I will take into consideration and pass on a word to my management also on this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
I would
sir.
like to, and I can also associate wherever you need my help. I will associate to help and ensure that these all youngsters get a good feed on that.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day, sir.
Okay, all the best. Thank you.
The students can go back to their respective sessions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.